Welcome back, my Mexico life friends. Today I want to talk about something, and this is about people who want to move or transition to Mexico. A lot of people don't understand this, and then they end up getting in trouble because here's one of the differences. Okay, when you come to Mexico and you apply for temporary residency, which is what most people do as a transition to permanent residency. Now, you can stay a temporary resident. You just have to renew that temporary residency either 2, 3, or 5 years. I don't know exactly, but it's a renewable thing. There are differences between temporary and permanent. And a lot of people don't understand that. They think it's just a transition. There are a lot of differences. Here's one. As a temporary resident, you have a residency status, right? You can live in Mexico as a temporary resident. You can stay all year. You can stay multiple years as a temporary resident. You will just have to renew that temporary residency. A lot of people call that nomad because a lot of people who apply for that, they don't want to live in one particular place, right? In other words, they don't buy a house or rent a house. They just want to travel all over Mexico. Maybe they have a trailer and they want to just go all over Mexico. Yeah, this is what they call the nomad residency. But here's one of the differences. As a temporary resident, you can drive your car or van or motorhome or whatever to Mexico. You can live there as a temporary resident, and you can keep your U.S. plated vehicle. Now, that's an important thing. U.S. plated vehicle. In other words, if you have Arizona plates, California plates, whatever plates, that is one of the benefits to being a temporary nomad resident. Because they don't expect you to be a person who wants to buy a house or rent a house and live in Mexico. They expect you to be a person who is going to come here and maybe, I don't know, stay for 6 months, a year, 2 years. But they don't expect you to be a permanent resident, kind of like in the U.S., right? If you get your permanent residency, they expect you to live in the U.S. And you say, well, how is that different? Once you get your permanent residency, you can no longer drive a U.S. plated or foreign plated vehicle in Mexico. You will have to get your vehicle replated, right? In other words, get Mexican license plates, Mexican registration, everything, Mexican insurance. Well, you need that anyway, but it'll change once you become a permanent. And that's something people don't understand. If you're a permanent resident, they expect you to be like a Mexican citizen, just like they do in the US. If you move to the US and you brought your Mexican car with, Mexican plates, they would expect that, you have to convert your car to US plates and get US registration by US insurance. That's the same thing in Mexico, and people don't understand this, and they get caught. They get caught because they keep driving their, California plates or, Arizona plates. And if you ever get stopped, they will look, and you have to give them your permanent resident card, and they will say, you're a permanent resident. Why are you driving a car from another country? Yeah, you're going to get busted. Some people have trouble even converting their car from US to Mexico because Mexico has certain limitations on certain cars. Toyota, I just threw that out. They do have certain restrictions, so make sure your car, if you get permanent residency, can be converted. Otherwise, you will sell it in the US and buy a Mexican car and get plates and registration and insurance in Mexico. So that's what I wanted to tell you. I probably took too long to do that, but a lot of people are getting caught now because Mexico is getting, more enforcement because the US is treating us, or, treating Mexicans like shit. And so be ready. They will enforce it, and decide if you want to be temporary, renew it every so often, or be permanent, and then you are a resident of Mexico. I'll talk to you guys next time. I hope this helped you, and I hope you don't get caught driving a US plated vehicle as a permanent resident.